bọ̀dẹ̀. Èṣù ọ̀dàrà. Èṣù ọ̀lọ́nà. Èṣù. Make it possible, Èṣù. Great messenger. Intervene for Èṣù. Bàbá wa. Bàbá mi. Èṣù. Wá Èṣù, wá Èṣù.
Peace. Welcome, everyone. Just made it back just in time. I was giving our offerings and things like that before the segment, so made it here just in time. Welcome, of course, to Kmunity, and of course, you're listening to a product of enlightenment and transformation. And I want to welcome all of you who have dialed in. I see the phone lines are starting to get meaty. And definitely those of you who are coming in from the YouTube side, and of course, as always, those who will come in later from archives, however those archives come in. I just want to say peace to all of you and welcome, of course. If you were able to pick up on our segment, I'd say last night, maybe even the day before, because we've been covering a particular subject for a couple of days now, but in particular, last night, we were able to tap into, or we started tapping into the idea of motherhood, the sacredness of motherhood, and not just motherhood, but in terms of we were talking about the energy transfer that occurs between mother and child, and the importance of it, and how it leads to a more balanced individual, or sometimes how it can lead to some of the problems that many of us experience in life, but have a little trouble pinpointing, have a little trouble figuring out where it's coming from. So I'm going to give you all the call-in number, and then I'm going to kind of get into some of this subject matter. Give me a second. I'm looking for the call-in number. All right, here we go. 515-605-9862. 515-605-9862. Just hit the number 1 if you want to speak. I was trying to flow off of memory for a second there with that call-in number. Yeah, it's got to go anyway, because I was informed yesterday that the dollar or the cent, 1 cent or dollar per minute thing is still happening on those calls. So I'm currently in talks right now with Blog Talk to get that number swapped out. And, again, thank you for everyone who sent information in about Blog Talk alternatives, because if it doesn't work out the way I want, in terms of these numbers and stuff, then I'll just get off of Blog Talk and do something else. There's a lot of alternatives out there, and if I really want to get my nerd on, I could actually design something myself, So I'm trying to avoid that. Sometimes it's nice just to pay for the convenience, but yeah. just thank you, everyone who sent in suggestions, and keep them coming in, especially those of you who broadcast as well or have podcasts or anything like that. I'm definitely open, so, and Brother Dietrich as well, thank you. I got that information that you sent, and I'm just going over everything. All right, so like I said, and let me say peace to Sister Bonilla, Eladio, if I said that right. If I didn't, I apologize. Naum, and Designs Not Defined. Greetings to all of you. All right, and for all the other ones we're going to pile in, we got about another 14 minutes until we fill up. Like I always say, 20 minutes in is when everyone kind of shows up. And peace, Sister Marva. Always been coming through strong too. I see you. I see you. I don't always comment on everyone, but I always see who I see the names that pop up frequently. So peace to you as well, sister. But so we were digging in just to some of these ideas last night, and we touched on a little bit of it the night before, and I'm just saying that for those of you who are tuning in now for the first time, it would do you a great service if you actually checked out last night's segment, where we was kind of like the part one, where I just kind of started addressing some of the issue and some of the energy exchange or lack thereof that occurs between mother and child that sometimes we miss out on because we don't know it exists or we don't know how vital it is. And then, of course, it goes on to create many, many problems later in our lives. So one of the things that I was speaking about yesterday was the interplay between that that second and third chakra, or what we would call the sacral chakra and the navel chakra, or the solar chakra. And there's a very sacred exchange that occurs between those two chakras, between mother and child. And that quadmester, or that fourth trimester, once that child comes forth out of the womb, there's still a need for that exchange of energy. And when that exchange, I'm just giving you the quick and simple of it, and when that exchange of energy is not provided, it creates an imbalance in our adult life. And I'm going to speak a little bit about the father's place, but I want to make something very, very, very clear. This is primarily the responsibility of the mother. Okay, so I know, again, in this society, we like to unisexualize. So if I say, well, a lot of times we don't get this from our mother, then there's got to be that other voice that says, and there's a lot of things we don't get from our father too, but we're not talking about that right now. There's certain things we're supposed to get from our mother, certain things we're supposed to get from our fathers. And the same thing goes for your children. There are certain expectations to have for your sons, and those are different. They differ from the expectations that you would have for your daughters. Okay, so when you start to understand that responsibility of gender, responsibility of role, and how it discerns and separates itself based on how you came forth, then you're able to really create the balance that's needed. So again, this subject is primarily for the women, but I do feel that I'm not out of place to speak about it because I am someone's child. So we're speaking about, again, all of us have a mother. So again, that exchange that occurs there, or that is supposed to occur. So we were speaking about that Manipura, which is that third chakra, that solar chakra, and its exchange with the Swadhisthana chakra, which is the sacral chakra. And of course, in Kemet, we call these points the Arit. Okay, so in different structures, you have different names for them. Sometimes as you're studying things like chakras and certain energies, at least for me, I'll get the energy maybe from one, or get the understanding of something, maybe from a particular system, but I will tend to gravitate a little bit more towards whichever system has centered more of the information around it. Because you just get a more fleshed out understanding once you're able to make the correlation. So you might study one system and you have one tome on chakras. You might have two or three pages, And then you go to another system, if you're able to make the connection, you might have volumes and volumes of information. So there's nothing wrong in that sense with kind of, crossing over a little bit just to kind of flesh out the picture a little bit more, and then it helps you to understand it anywhere you go in any system. But I wanted to speak for a moment on the really the vitalness of a balanced solar chakra. And again, this is actually the food or the energy that's deposited from the mother. So we're talking about the solar chakra. We're primarily talking about the child, or the effects that, this whole process and energy exchange has on a child. A child feels that through the solar chakra. And then when we're speaking about the maternal responsibility, we're primarily talking about the sacral chakra. Okay, so again, solar chakra or navel chakra for the child, and sacral chakra for the mother. Okay, and as I expressed yesterday to you all, that there is a biogenetic inheritance or biogenetic transference that comes through not only cum or semen, as we would say, and I'm using that word cum not in the colloquial sense, so just so I'm not trying to be fresh with anybody on the phone, but I'm going to break down later that word cum, cum, why we use that, and its relationship to the word compassion, which again, like I expressed last night, the calm in compassion was initially, in the Latin was cum, cum, not com, as we spell it today, but cum. So there's a transference of one thing to another thing. Peace, Sister Sequoia. So what you have is the idea, like even when you have passion, which, is a transference of feelings, but it's a bidirectional transference of the love vibration, or that particular feeling. So even when a child is created through the pleasure of orgasm, and someone comes, there's a transference of a love vibration, at least there should be, into that woman, which now fertilizes that egg. Now what happens is afterwards, the mother continues to transfer that vibration into the child. You see, through the sacral chakra connection going into the navel chakra. And when you're dealing again with that sacral chakra, you're dealing with your inheritance or your wisdom that comes from your egun. Okay, that's where you get that soul or that egun or ancestral transference from the mother. She gives it to you through her sacral chakra. Okay, so that's where the inheritance aspect comes from. That's the ancestral aspect, and then that goes the noises. Let me turn my leash down. That's all the phone is. It's just a leash. Let me turn that down so I can focus. Okay, so so again, it goes into that sacral space, right? I'm sorry, that navel space. And that navel chakra, as I said in the Sanskrit, it's called Manipura. And real simple, real quick, the idea of mani is, it means jewel, or like, or specifically pearl. And pura means city. So that's that particular chakra, that solar chakra, represents the place of the pearl, or the city of the pearl, or the city of the jewel. Okay, that's the whole science behind your solar chakra or your navel chakra. Now, what's the significance in that? Well, one of the things that I was speaking about with you all yesterday was that, we get our sense of self through the sacral chakra. That's where we get our sense of self. In fact, it's called the dwelling place of the self. Swadhisthana, that's the dwelling place of the self, where your true self lives. But you get the projection of that self through that navel chakra. So when you're coming up from the root, 1, 2, 3, when you come, peace, Nurse Moore, when you're coming up through that root chakra, you have a sense of the egoic self, primarily based off of the acclamation of your earthly needs or your earthly desires. So you have that sense that's very strong in you, right? And then you extend outward from that into your sacral space, where now you start to tap into an understanding or a connection with your truer self, right? But all of this is pretty much unseen. It's pretty much internal. I mean, you can almost look at it in the sense of even the way a person may dress a lot of times, it's not such a big idea to see someone's stomach or to see their belly button, but you may not necessarily see their sacred genital area or even their cossack area, the area near their anus or anything like that. But when you actually do get to see them or you see that projection, your first instance may be through the stomach or through the belly button. You see, just and that's just a little way to. There's nothing really deep in metaphysics about that. That's just a little way to kind of remember it, right? So again, it's the projection of the self that we get now through that navel chakra. So the significance of having that seat of power or that projection and understanding that, okay, well, in Sanskrit they call it the city of jewels, or they called it the place of the pearl, or the place of the jewel, because again, remember, you're dealing with the solar chakra, so you're dealing with light and fire. Okay, so it's what becomes lustrous, and I've always had somewhat of a personal theory. I think I did a quick breakdown one time. I don't even remember the name of the show, but I spoke about lust and how lust and luster, they're the same word. So when you lust for someone, what you really are, you're attracted to their shine. That's what it really is. That's what lusting, after someone. So to even be lustful is not necessarily a bad thing, or to lust is not necessarily a bad thing. I know your biblical information tells you that lusting is just as bad as committing adultery or fornication, but I'm not a I'm not a servant to that teaching. But so the whole idea of the lust is the projection of light or the desire to intake light. That's why ideas like lust and passion are almost, they go hand in hand in many senses, in many sentences, because the passion in its root word, actually means love. So compassion is the transference of love. So you have this idea again where that solar chakra represents the lust, and the lust allows me to see you so that I can transfer love to you or receive love from you. Without the luster or the shine or the radiation, really, because that's what we're talking about, because we're talking about solar, so that's sun, of course. So without the radiation, that chakra radiating outward, I'm not really seen. Okay, now think about this for a second. Again, let's go back to the relationship between mother and child. It's your mother that will typically determine if you're going to have a person with, if you're going to be a person with self-esteem or not. Most of your esteem issues come from the relationship with your parents, and in particular your mother, because your mother can build you up or she can break you down. Why is that? Well, because she's the one who transferred your sense of self to you to begin with. She's the one who transferred it through her sacral chakra, which is the dwelling of self. I've shared this before many times. Well, not many times, but several times. You have the Yoruba word omo. Omo means children, but mo itself means I. O, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of, or the spirit of, right? So when we say, or the exalted idea of I is Omo. So it's me in my exalted state, the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of me. So we go through it, right? But you've heard some of this before from me. So essentially, when you think about the relationship between the father and mother, which transferred, the father fertilizes the egg, but the actual soul characteristics and imprint already existed on that egg, because whatever egg you have in your body, you were born with. You're not generating them as a woman. So you already have that imprint. The father comes along and says, I like this I. Now, when I say I, like it's almost like Rasa, like I and I. Like I like this woman here, and I want to fertilize what she presents, what she's already producing, and put it out further. But what she is at the soul level, it's gonna manifest itself through the spirit that I'm gonna put inside of her. Because your spirit characteristic you get from your father, your soul characteristic you get from your mother. She gives you that sense of the true I. So when we say Omo, when we say I, we're not speaking about I Chief Yuya. We're not speaking about I Chief, I Baba. Any title or any idea that someone has related themselves to me based on knowing me in the world, it's the real I. When we talk about that breath of life that the Most High gives you and injects a soul into you, again, your soul is going to come from your maternal principle. Your spirit is going to come from your paternal principle. The spirit is going to come from the fatherly principle. The soul is going to come from the motherly principle. So how do we root and determine exactly who I am and what I am, what my purpose is? Well, by connecting to the vibration of the soul. So this actual idea, this actual essence, this actual quality is transferred through compassion. Compassion is what? The transference of love. It's transferred through compassion through that sacral chakra of the mother going into the solar chakra of the child. And when you find that there's a disruption or maybe even a perversion and this transference, you'll find again, like I said yesterday, those are usually the people that you meet that have very little drive for life. You know, they have this sense of like whatever's to be will be, right? And essentially it's because they don't have a sense of ownership of self. They don't have that sense of I do control and own my destiny because I do have a purpose. I do have a destiny. They don't have those pearls that are inside of them. Like when we speak about, they don't have that luster or that radiation because their solar chakra has not been energized. So it's like having an unrefined diamond. I don't know if any of you have ever seen unrefined diamonds, but you know they look like dirty like dirty glass almost, or like dirty crystals, you know. So it's like having a gem or a ruby or a pearl that has not been cleaned up, has not been refined, so therefore it doesn't have its luster, you see. So it doesn't go out into the world and say, well, this is my place, this is my idea, this is what I can do. It doesn't have that sense because it's through the world that it not only connects with the external material environment, but it's also through that chakra that it connects with the cosmic energetic environment. Because remember, how is that child fed? Through the umbilical that connects to the navel. Okay, so and in that moment, that mother represents Akasha. No different than the Akasha and Queen of the Dam and everything like that. But the mother represents that etheric environment that I now feed from, that gives me all of my nutrients, that even gives me my balance and provides the fire that exists inside of my center. You see, because fire is necessary. Fire is not only the purifier, but it does so many different things. But again, it's through the mother that feeling of adjustment and balance comes, through a sense of flame or fire that sits in the middle of that individual. Now, when you look at, again, your basic chakras, right? It's the solar chakra that projects upwards and enlightens the ones above it. It's the solar chakra that projects downwards and enlightens the ones beneath it, because it represents that sun center. Okay, it represents the heat that's inside of us. We even use that heat when we need to digest food, right? When we're taking things in and we need to create energy. Well, where does that whole digestive action happen? Well, it happens at the center, right? Where your solar chakra is, in the center of you. So it's in that space where you receive so much. I mean, I don't want to say like it's the most important chakra, because it's not, because they all work hand in hand. But it's critical for you to actually make your presence in the cosmic environment and to make your presence in the earthly environment. So when we have a term like Omo, you know, again, when we say like the idea of Omo, we're saying the knowledge, wisdom, understanding of I, the knowledge, wisdom, understanding of me. That's the representation of Omo. That's the fire that's shared. So it's almost like the Olympic fire, that whole Masonic ritual where there's an everlasting fire and I'm giving it from one person to another. Well, the fire and that particular energy that's given from the mother represents clarity, because remember, it's the city of jewels, or it's the place of the pearl. Okay, so what that represents is it's the clarity that we have. And when you have a jewel, or if you, no matter what you're going through, let's say financially, right? And it's really a good example, considering that we live in a society based around a theocracy, with the theocratic currency being fiat currency, right? Basically fake money. We live in a society of fake money. Okay. So let's say if you lived in a society of fake money, and the idea of bankruptcy was ever looming. However, you had a storehouse somewhere of precious gems, pearls, diamonds, rubies, diamonds, I think I said diamonds already. So, 2 times diamonds. You had a lot of diamonds, but you had pearls and rubies and, sapphires and all these different precious gems. You wouldn't feel the same measure of pressure or concern, or most importantly, fear, because you would know that, well, at the end of the day, I can go and use these gems that I have for trade. Okay. So you wouldn't feel that same deficit or that same pull that many other people would be feeling at the time. Well, translate again, because what is the mother or the maternal principle giving to that child? What is its method of transport? Compassion. Okay. So what is passion? The transference of love. So when the maternal energy transfers love into the child grows up feeling loved, feeling accepted, most importantly, feeling connected. Because what is love? I've expressed this a lot of times. Basic sense, what love is connection. That's the basics of love. Hate is disconnection. That's all. Now we could get deeper into some of the more esoterics of it, but ultimately it's going to break down to the same thing. Love is to connect. Oshun is the congregative force, or the connecting force of the universe, the dark matter force pulling things together. And then you have the idea of disconnecting things from each other, which is your vibration of Eshu, which is a segregative force, who lives, of course, in the root chakra. So it's the egoic aspect that says, no, it's just me. It's just I, you see. But that transference of I is the transference of love. That compassion is the transference of the love vibration. So now, when the mother properly transfers that through that connection of the umbilical, and then continues the transference of that feminine energy, okay? Because the sacral chakra itself is considered feminine. Your chakras, I know for some reason, I don't know why, but a lot of people don't really speak about that too much, but very similar to your odus, your chakras themselves have masculine and feminine qualities to them. So some are more masculine, some are more feminine. All right. So the sacral chakra itself is feminine. It's a feminine transference. So what you're receiving from that space, that's why even when you look at sex, right? In many senses, sex is far more healing for a man than it is for a woman. Not just because of the amount of nerve endings that are in the tip of the penis and all the different things you could do to kind of get a man in a good place, or even heal the heart. Literally, heart issues can be healed through sex, but it's just because of what's transferred through that sacral chakra. And the feminine nature of that transference through the sacral chakra. So again, through that particular chakra, the mother is transferring love into the child. So that's why you have, it's such a powerful transference that it manifests in the physical form as an actual physical connection. We call that the umbilical cord. That's how powerful that connection is. It actually manifests into a third dimensional condensation. It's an actual chord that proves the connection. You see, that's where the child gets its nurturing and its energy from. Where it gets the beneficial qualities that come from that, and it essentially it gets a right feeling right, not feeling like a stranger or an alien wherever it steps its foot, which many of us feel. We never feel at home. We never feel at ease. We never feel protected. We never feel loved. No matter what people do for us, we always come out, I don't feel like anybody loves me. Okay, because we're feeding the wrong energy centers for that particular notion. And then some people will say things like, well, love exists all around you. And all you have to do is just kind of be aware of it. And that's absolutely true. That is true, because essentially we are existing within a womb. But it's very difficult to apply that beautiful lesson. It's very difficult because there are fears that are induced by the starvation that occurs when that energy transference is not happening between mother and child. There are fears that are produced, and fears create blockages. You see, so if you're not getting that from your maternal principle, or you've never gotten that from your maternal principle, you are born fearful. Okay, so what the fear does is it creates a very strong egoic sense. And one of the reasons we know this is because our navel chakra is responsible for our projection of prana. Because remember, you're taking food that you may eat, whatever, you're processing it into energy, which is, so that's a form of prana. But essentially, that's where your warrior energy sits. And it's where you're pulling those great warriors from the spirit realm and channeling through you and projecting it back outwards like the sun. In fact, the Manipura chakra is also called the cosmic gateway, or the cosmic door. So it's like an opening. So when things aren't right there, things won't be right. In a very simple sense. If it's not right there, it won't get right. Okay, so a lot of times there's deep blockages that we experience as adults as a result of not being fed that love energy through that chakra. Now, let me give you some, just a little, I guess, kind of insight a little bit on chakras, and when we're having some issues with chakras. Because sometimes I'm asked this, right? And people will say, well, I'm having a problem in this chakra, I'm having a problem in that chakra. Like, how do I balance that out, right? And the first thing I can tell you is, in order to balance a particular chakra, balance all of your chakras. That's how it works. Okay, it's like, trying to get in shape, and people say, I want to lose my stomach, but I don't want to lose my legs or my behind. If you're going to work out, overall, you're going to lose fat, and you're even going to lose some muscle, depending, but you're going to lose body mass overall if you're exceeding, your natural body mass, index, where you should be. So it's the same thing with your chakras. A lot of times we try to do spot healing. We want to create this very surgical environment where I'm just going to work on this chakra or work on that chakra, and I'm good on the rest of them. And sometimes we don't realize they don't really work that way. You can't do spot chakra healing. It doesn't really work like that. You have to deal with them overall, in an overall sense, in order to get the health that comes from them. So that's the greatest way, starting there in terms of balancing out. But like I was sharing last night, tapping into your behaviors and your abilities of actualization. It's one of the reasons why I put so much emphasis on self-actualization in the work that I do, because tapping into those vibrations of self-actualization are tapping into that sacral chakra. Now, when you tap into your own sacral chakra, you're basically, from a macrocosmic perspective, you're tapping into the sacral chakra of the universe. So it starts to come back to you in the same way. So you start to be fed that mother's love that you may not have, or maybe you won't ever actually get from your own biological maternal principle. Because for some of us, it's too late. You know, maybe our parents have transitioned, or we just don't have the type of relationships with our mothers, or maybe they're so unaware of their actual responsibility that they don't understand that, listen, I'm 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 years old, still lopsided because you never deposited the ancestral love into me. So now I'm 25, 30, 40 years old trying to figure out how to set up a shrine to talk to a bunch of ancestors who I don't even know, never met, don't know their names or anything like that, because I don't have that natural connection with them. You know, we get this through, you know, when we talk about that fourth trimester, we get that through extending certain ancestral readings as we move forward. You know, in our tradition, really comes from Benin, but we have what's called like the Joto reading, which I've spoken about before. I don't want to get into a breakdown too much of that, but just that process of learning what ancestors are with us. Now, technically, when you're in the womb, that's the energy that's coming down through that umbilical cord. You're getting that information. These are the Egun that are with you. This is the Egun that you are. Boom, 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 boom. So you're getting your roots reading in utero, you see. But the problem is, again, if you have a maternal principle, and even in that fourth trimester, as we may say, a paternal principle that's not sensitive to that, that's not respectful of that, the intensity of the connection begins to weaken. And once you lose your connection with the cosmic environment through your navel chakra, you lose your, like I said, your sense of right feeling. You always feel slightly unhinged, you know, because you always feel that there's something that's just incomplete or not right at your center. And that creates a certain level of anxiety. And if you look at, again, our society, you're looking at a lot of people who are suffering from anxiety, fear, different symptoms of illness, anger, jealousy. All of these things come as a result of not having a transference of love at that level and at that age. So then we learn later how to pull that vibration from the cosmos. Okay, so what I'm going to do really quick, all right, I'm going to give a little quick verbal libation. All right, I think I've shared this one once before. I don't know, I could be wrong, but I'm going to share it again if I have it, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to build on this a little bit more.
Mama, oh mama, I have ascended to higher realms. I am back into the transparent cocoon in which I was born. I'm in the angelic realm, looking over you. Oh mama, don't fret, don't fret. I am in the safe bosom in the realm of our ancestors. I've journeyed this path representing the Fula ways. Time for celebration, mama. Time to dance, time to sing, time to chant, time to drum. It's time to celebrate, mama. I've journeyed in the hellish North America, carrying the traditions of our ancestors. So many, mama, will benefit from our life path and our life journey. Please, mama, don't worry. I live on. I live on. As you see, all of the organizations that are being developed as a result of the sacrifice, I have given my life spirit willingly. Though it was a violent and bloody death, my blood resonates with justice. Yes, Mama, pour libations. Call on the Lord of the worlds and our ancestors as we move forward, as we continue to ascend. Yes, Mama, it's all right. I'm home. I'm home, Mama. Yes, I'm home.
All right, cool. So we're back, and again, we're tapping into this vibration of the maternal principle. The reason I wanted to play that, I actually meant to play it last night. I always kind of tend to do that. I'll pull out something and say, "Oh, I'm gonna this one will kind of amp me up for whatever it is I want to talk about," and I forget. A lot of times I'll start flowing in a certain direction and forget. But that was actually a song that I did long time ago, probably about maybe 2001, something like that. It was one of those freestyle music everything, and basically it was around. There was a brother, for some of younger listeners, there was a shooting back in '99 here in the New York area of a young brother, 23-year-old brother by the name of Amadou Diallo, and he was shot 41 times by New York City police officers who are now firemen. In fact, they were taken off the force for a little while, and then the city said, "Don't worry, we got you. You know, we're gonna give you a reward. Here, come firemen," and then you could just go inside of people's houses and steal things while they're on fire. But there was a movie that was done around that time, and the producer of the movie had reached out to me and asked if I would do something for the soundtrack. So I actually, literally, because it was like last minute, and one night was pouring libations and was in the studio with a good brother of mine, and we was just talking about the Fulani people, and just kind of invoking that energy through just talking about the Fulani, and went outside, poured some libations. I came in, got on my drums, you know, my djembe and my Rhodes and my bass, and just did it. And the reason why the song is, you know, I wouldn't say my best work, but it's precious to me, is because at the viewing of the movie, Amadou Diallo's mother was there, and she came up to me with tears in her. She was just overwhelmed, you know, at the actual song. She was like, it was like exactly the things my son would say. And, you know, that just came through that channeling, that ancestral channeling. So it was always just precious to me, a precious moment to be able to do that for her and with her, in a sense, you know, channeling that energy and having that conversation with his Umi or with his mother, you know. So, yeah, I felt it was appropriate for what we're speaking about. So one of the things, like I expressed earlier, is that when you're getting that transference, let me give the number if anybody wants to call in. 515-605-9862. Yeah, 515-605-9862. Just the number one if you want to speak. If not, it's cool too. But yeah, one of the things, like I had said earlier, was that, you know, when you're dealing with that particular chakra connection, again, between the mother's sacral and the child's navel chakra, that sacral chakra is primarily going, you know, it's sending out maternal energy. That's why I said, you know, this is primarily, these segments, we're speaking about the woman's responsibility and what it feeds in terms of feeding into that space. You know, the symbol, if you look at the sacral chakra, I'm sure, I mean, the navel chakra, you can probably find images online or something like that, but you'll see an inverted triangle is a key, you know, in that Manipura. You also see that in the root chakra as well, but, you know, that solar chakra, you see that inverted triangle, and what that represents, whenever you see that, because you also see that in our Yoruba systems, you see the inverted triangle sometimes drawn or written. What that represents is your connection to your origins. Okay, so you have the tip of the triangle pointed down towards the earth, representing the ancestral energy. And then, of course, you have the wider aspects of the triangle shooting upwards, which represents the dispensation of energy, or not dispensation, excuse me, the dissipation of energy. A lot of times represented in different indigenous cultures. You'll hear stories about different energies becoming steam or gas or wind. What they're speaking about there is how ancestors come back through and we make children. That's basically what it's talking about, because it's no different than if you look at a tree with its branches, right? If you look at a tree, it almost resembles that same triangular or inverted triangular shape, where the smaller part of it is pointing downwards, pulling something from there, and then outwards is projecting, into a wider space, into a wider array. Okay, so you often will see that particular energy represented there. So again, you get the idea that what you're receiving from your mother is a sense of your origins. Now, we knew this way back when. This is why our systems were matrilineal. Now, we established and we built civilizations and kingdoms from patriarchy. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. They don't like to hear it because of their own ignorance. But they want to hear that, no, because I had somebody, ex-student, say that once. Oh, I heard it was the women who built everything back in Egypt and things like that. And I was like, no, you're misinformed. You're listening to too many simpish RBG lecturers. That's the problem. There's a difference between building something and managing it. So even when we speak about certain queens who have may step forth and do something, who built it? And again, that's not to take away from her role or anything like that. But again, you're trying to unisexualize or trying to establish a Western feminist agenda inside of what we're speaking about here brings that sense of death, because you start to lose what your purpose and role is. So if you were to understand that, okay, well, listen, I'm talking to the women. My job is to bring this ancestral wisdom to my child. That's what I'm doing. My mate is going to give the child their personality, but my job is to give them their soul, their marching orders, their directives. You see, so when we say things like, I expressed this before, well, when does the woman get to be the boss? Here you go. You're defining or not defining the actual marching directives of the entire nation. But how many of us come into our consciousness, the term we like to use, come into our consciousness and are still battling with our mothers or our fathers, but our mothers as well, about what we're actually doing, have been ostracized as a result. Well, that's the exact opposite of what's supposed to be happening. It's the maternal principle that's supposed to be directing you back to your ancestral origins, not you trying to teach your parents, about what we did way back in the day. You see, what's very significant here that is given through, again, that maternal transference of compassion, is the dualistic vibration of Vishnu and Lakshmi, okay, or Shango and Oshun, or Heteru and Heru. Okay, it's that dualistic residence that you find living in that solar chakra, very similar to the throat chakra. In that chakra, you'll find Oya and Shango living together. So Shango gets around a little bit, but we know kind of even evidence of this in the solar chakra, because the solar chakra is symbolized by the ram. Now, we know who the ram is. That's Shango, right? Which is dealing with the liveliness. And again, remember, like I said, that the solar chakra is the fire. It's the seat of you, your center, where all that fire and activity is supposed to be, right? So again, what we start to understand, okay, well, that combination between Vishnu and Lakshmi, like what's being shared here? Well, first thing we said that particular chakra, it means the city of pearl, or the place of gems. Okay, so now you start to understand why Lakshmi is associated and Oshun is associated with wealth. It's not necessarily money. It's not $20 and $100 bills, but it's the wealth, it's ancestral wealth of knowing who and what I am. There's nothing worse than having a pocket full of money, but being afraid or feeling lonely. How much would you pay to never feel lonely again, to always feel accepted and loved and warm? And people pay a lot of money for that. A lot. We call them tricks. So that idea of that Lakshmi being present there mates and matches with the progressiveness and the movement towards evolution of Vishnu. Okay, because Vishnu represents that, like, always trying to take things to the next level, always trying to project outward. So when you combine the two together, you have Lakshmi again, which is that pearl, which is that wealth, and you have the fire or the projection of Vishnu that sends it outwards. Okay, now that's the same exact relationship. So what the mother is essentially depositing, a healthy mother, is a healthy sense of mating right into the child from the very beginning. A healthy sense of mating, because the mother's telling you from the beginning with these two energies that it's sending forth into that child that, listen, the woman has the power, holds the jewels, holds the gem, but it's refined by the masculine energy. No one sees the jewels of the gem until the masculine force with its light cleans it up, purifies it, and projects it outward. So in knowing this already, you'll have I'm just going to say little girls, we'll take it there. You'll have little girls who will come out knowing that they're precious, knowing that they're sacred, and are inviting of the critical refinement that only a man can provide. You see, they won't see it as soon as a man says, well, listen, let's try to do it this way, or let's drink some alkaline water. They won't look at it as bashing or look at it as emotional or mental or financial abuse, or, all these different abuse categories they keep coming up with. Every year we get a new one. And it's not to say, and I shouldn't even have to say this, but I know all kinds of people listening. I know my core audience understands what I'm saying. But it's not to say that I am condoning abuse, right? And again, like I said, it's sad that you have to say that our human intellect has devolved to that point where our listening is so poor that you always have to come back with those disclaimers. I'm not advocating abuse, and there are times when certain men can be abusive. I shouldn't even really have to say that, but that's where we're at. Maybe next time I just won't say it and let it just be where it's at. But those of you who are listening, you understand what I'm saying. So what's presented to you from early on is how you're interacting with that Kundalini energy, or that masculine and feminine energy, how that interplay creates an upward spiral of evolution using your own talents and gifts. So one of the things that's injected into you already, because you have that vibration, is the idea of what it is, the gifts and the talents that you're already coming with. You're given that by your mother. Now, just look at this from a natural sense. From a natural sense, right? Even if maybe you didn't totally get that as a child, right? Most of the time, for many people, their talents are sometimes exaggerated, but their talents are usually acknowledged and promoted and cheerleaded on first by their mothers. Sometimes the smallest things. Oh, look what the baby did today. Or look at this, look at that, look at that, look at that. It's usually the mother that will acknowledge and recognize those talents, and then will often bring the father in and say, look at this, look at that, look at that. We need to get her some piano lessons. We need to get her in ballet. You need to make that happen, brother. Put that in the budget. Whatever it is. But you start to see some of that natural interplay. Now, of course, many people have not received this, but this is why, again, we have such a preponderance of sickness walking through the planet right now. Okay, because there was no transference of love. So you have individuals who are moving around like cave people. Like, you look at a person like Donald Trump, everyone's so upset, they don't really understand the inheritance that he received, the ideation that he's received, where he's devoid of compassion. There was a lack of transference there at some point. And he's not the only one. Everyone will talk about Donald Trump. He's not the only one. Go to your local hood and look at any gangbanger. Look at anyone. I mean, I could say something real raw right now, but look at anyone who puts their sexual desires over their natural and organic obligatory compulsion to reproduce. And you think about what I just said. Anybody who puts their sexual desires over their natural and communal obligatory compulsion to reproduce and extend their line forward. That's what that inverted triangle represents in the solar chakra. And you figure out what that means. I'm sure I'll lose some callers on that one. Oh, yep, lost one. Lost one. I knew that was going to happen. Somebody figured out what I was saying. So what I'm saying is that you find that energy, that sickness and that imbalance in many different ways when the transference of love, and love again is connection. So it is through your mother that you feel that sense of connection. You know, where you feel that sense of, even when you're disconnected from the mother, I'm still connected to something. You see, it's through that particular energy that you feel that, and that shoots up from the root chakra, which is a desire that the parents have, going through the sacral chakra, and then boom, right into the child's solar chakra. You see. And the father plays a role because he's depositing the spirit, the personality, the way we're going to get this done. And the mother actually gives that seat, or that profoundness and awareness of the consciousness that sits in there. And there's so much more to this. So much more to this. I'm actually giving you kind of a light version. And, you know, in terms of the healing, you know, in terms of the chakra work, of course, we cover that in our new spiritual training phase 1. There's a whole section on healing the emotional body, because it's just that critical. Healing the emotional body. People want to talk about Donald Trump. There's a lot of y'all are Donald Trump. Okay. And just not as honest about it. Simple way though. Simple sense. Like I said, balance your other chakras, you know, is a great way. Tighten up your core muscles. Start to deal with that fire in your center a little bit more. Engage and engage and almost enrage the fire. Sometimes you got to almost become enraged to raise that Kundalini serpent back up through, you know, and to send that serpent out through that sacral chakra or through that navel chakra back out into the universe and get your connection back. Say, oh, come on back. I know mama didn't handle all her stuff, but I know me as a man or as a woman walking this planet, I have a celestial counterpart, a celestial mother that will continue to feed me even the genetic information that I need to continue this mission forward towards higher consciousness. All right, that has been our segment. I will speak to you all tomorrow, early show Friday, 9 a.m. I'm sorry, 7 a.m. 7 a.m. Friday's the early day.
90 seconds.
All right, and I will be on. And feel free to comment on this video. Any questions you have, any thoughts, boom, 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 boom. Anything you want to share. And yeah, I see some of the I know you enraged, Sister Sequoia. You're not the only one. There's a lot of sisters who are feeling that rage because they're reaching out. Sister Edwina, everyone, yeah. Some of you stay in that rage place, but I'm not gonna call anybody out. But of course, the rage is real. The rage is very real because there's that sense of I'm reaching out. Something was not given to me. This is unfair. It's almost like the first time you read about racism and you're like, wait a minute. And you see all the things that were kept from you that now created an imbalanced adult. All right, we're going to cover this a little bit more tomorrow. I'm going to close out the strong, Friday discussing this topic. So we're going to build on it some more tomorrow. All right. So I look forward to building with you then. Until such time, be safe. Peace.